Okay, we are now ready for our next section of today's lesson, which is taking all that data you've gathered, even if you're not finished, but you're started, and turning it into charts and graphs. So you're going to, of course, need to be in your results or data table section of your lab report to get started here. So this data table is awesome because it tells me a lot of great information, but it turns out it wouldn't turn into graphs at all from the way it is. And I'll show that to you in a little bit. But the first thing you want to do is having all this data is helpful, so I'll copy it. And then I'm going to come over here to File, and I'm going to say New Spreadsheet, because it's really easy to make charts and graphs in Google Sheets, and so I might as well make my life easier, right, and just put it in here. So then I'll paste my data over here, and ta-da, look at that. That table's right in and ready to go. So if I were to just take this and say, hey, will you make a chart for me? It wouldn't be able to do it. It'd be like, sorry, lady, you're crazy. That's not going to work. So then I'll come here and go, oh, right, that's just because that was more than just data. So how about that? And so I can try again, and it's still going to tell me you're crazy. There's no real data there. And let me tell you why. Remember how when you make a table, it's so important that you have your units up here, so it should be minutes and seconds because she did that, and then you should not have words in your number boxes, because where your data is should just be numbers, because if you don't just have numbers, it won't know how to graph it. So I won't make you watch me do all that. Right, now that I fixed it so there's actually numbers in my data part, it should do something for me. So let's check that out. I'm going to go ahead and highlight all of that, and now I'm going to press on Insert Chart. Ta-da! Look at that. Now I have a beautiful chart, and that was such little work for that. It's not perfect, though. I see that it's trial 1, trial 2, trial 3, and then wait, this is supposed to be average, and I notice a weird thing. It says average, but my average is so much higher than my others, and that's not what an average should be. My average should be my total divided by my number of trials, and instead it's just total. I do think total time is a pretty useful thing to see, so I'm going to go over here and not say average time, I'm going to say total time. And I think that that is really great. I do think that inserting another row that tells me my average would be really great, but now I need to make sure that I change my information in here as well. So first of all, my title should not just be that. That would be weird. So I'm going to say melt times for chocolate. And then I am going to keep minutes and seconds in parentheses, because otherwise they're not going to know what these numbers mean. So that's really important. Again, I am going to make sure I spell things right. I'm really struggling with that today. If I don't want my title left aligned, don't worry, you can change that. You can change all these things about titles. Also, chart and axis titles. If I come here, I'm sorry, I had it on chart title. If I wanted a subtitle, I could put one in. If I wanted a horizontal axis title, oh, I already have one, types of chocolate, but I should have a vertical axis title, and I don't have one. So I'm going to say melt time, and I'm going to put it in minutes and seconds, because that's what's going on in my vertical axis. So I type that in, and voila, it's in my chart. This is part of your grade. Having titles for each of your axes and your graph is part of your grade. So please make sure that you remember to put your titles in your charts, because that's the only thing that makes your charts make sense. Now, like I said, this is a great graph as it gives me lots of information, but an average melting time would be helpful to see where everything is at. So even though you've got all this data here, I think you should make another table that will give you another graph of average melting time, which really isn't hard. Simple math. And then you can make a table down here where you're going to have types of chocolate, and I'm just going to copy and paste those and put them over here. And then I'm going to just say average melt time, and then minutes and seconds. Okay, so once I have that in, I'm ready to go. And I can just put in those average melt times. Again, you don't have to, I'm just going to make up data for the sake of saving everyone time. So I'm going to put 2 minutes and 30 seconds here, 6 minutes, 27 seconds here, and let's see, this one looks like about 8:15. Okay, so now that I've got that in there, I should be able to turn this into a chart. And ta-da, look at that. So with just a few extra seconds of effort on my part, I'm able to have a whole nother graph that makes this so visual of how much of a difference there was between milk chocolate and cookies and cream. That's a pretty great thing. Now, because I like things to look the same, will I go through and change colors and font style and all that? I might, but it's not necessary. Now I have two great tables and two great graphs that I can have in my data section of my science fair project. How in the world do I get those back in there? Well, if I come here below this great table that I already have that I know I need to revise so that this says minutes and seconds and get rid of all those words, and I can do that later, I'm going to come right below it and I'll say insert insert chart from sheets. So when I do that, it'll just pull up all of my spreadsheets that I've been working on, and I'm going to pull on this one. And so I can choose, which chart do I want? Well, I want actually both of these. So if I press Command and click on both of them, I can import both at the same time, which is pretty nice. And now look at that. I've got these beautiful charts right here in my data. It's really important to label these charts sometimes, where you can tell people like, hey, this is chart A and this is chart B. That way, if you're referring to your data in your conclusion later, you can just say, as you can see in chart A. So if you take the time to go ahead and label those, that will make it easier for you. But as you can see, it only takes a few minutes to take wonderful data collection, figure out the best way to analyze your data, and make very visual graphs to help people to see what the results to your test were. Everybody's data analysis is going to look different. If you have a weird outlier, like if one of these had said, well, 21 minutes, right? I would highlight that in red and then make a note below it. Red font indicates an outlier of data. Remember, an outlier means it didn't make any sense, so we're throwing that data out. So make sure you point things out like that, because that's what makes you look more scientific. And those are the kind of things that they want to see in your conclusions, that you really analyzed your data. For this test, average made sense. So did total time, which is why we included them both. In other tests, averaging your data doesn't make sense. So do what makes sense for you, according to the data that you collected. Good luck analyzing your data today. I really am looking forward to seeing how all of your science fair projects turned out. When you are finished, please make sure that the only thing I really need you to turn in today are these spreadsheets. So in order to do that, one, you have to make sure you share it with me, because if you don't share your spreadsheet with me, then I won't get to see it. So please share your spreadsheet with cmcmullin@hclsindy.com. And then two, when you come back to your assignment for today, make sure when you click turn in, and then you actually attach your spreadsheet from your Google Drive. So thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing your work. Have a good day.